Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. I know again, the VIP side, I know that side works perfectly. We had a little bit of pregame going on, checking out some stocks and all that fun stuff. It looks like the YouTube side is working out well, too. Perfect. It's nice when a plan comes together. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, SSFTG family. Hopefully everyone has been able to rest up and get ready for the day ahead and all that fun stuff. As per the usual, on the right side of the screen, make sure to read through the morning prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Also, just a quick note. Oops, hang on. Go, whoops. Go inside there. Just a quick note for you all before we jump on in today. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, the stream does have between like a 5 and 30 second delay, depending on where you're logging in from, which will definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at any given moment. And then, of course, like we do every day as well, I just want to take a second to thank all of our new members, subscribers, Academy students, VIPs, everyone in between. Thank you all so much for the support. I'm super excited to have you all on board. Welcome to the SSFTG family. If you aren't a member yet, you have several different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education and career. The easiest way to start out is to join as a member on YouTube. It gets you in the chat room, a bit more behind the scenes and what's going on. Or if you want more info on what it is that we do every day and all of that fun stuff with our trading approach with over 19 hours of video course material and a ton more, swing over to at the main page, ssftg.com. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're a VIP vet over on the dedicated stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside of me today, analyzing these crazy markets of ours. Let's take a look at some markets. Speaking of which, take a look at some news and see what all is going on for today. Now, all things considered, everything, don't forget to grab your morning DP levels, by the way. But everything considered, we've got, well, we haven't really gone anywhere. On the bigger picture. Let's not get lost or jump down the rabbit hole too soon, though. Don't forget to grab those morning DP levels. Those are posted for you this morning in the Major 7. NASDAQ, S&P, Gold, Crude, Euro, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. It's a race every time. And don't forget, today is Thursday, which means that it's crude oil inventory day. Wait a minute, what? Monday was a holiday, so inventory day is today. The only news that we have today, 8:30 initial jobless claims came out this morning at 8:30, forecasted 335,000. The only other news that we have today is the crude oil inventories. The forecast is negative 4.612 million on the inventories. Now, if you look at the API report from before, right down here, you can see that the API report is suggesting that it should come out at around a negative 2.88. Well, if they're anticipating a negative 4 and it comes out at a negative 2, right, let's put this into perspective. They think they have negative 4, they think they're underwater by 4 million barrels. And they're actually only underwater by 2.8. Oh, okay. I mean, they're still under, right? But it's not as bad. It's kind of bullish in a way. Kind of, sort of, right? So that's kind of the mentality going into today with crude oil. It's like, okay, well, you know, what do they want to do here? Because they're anticipating it to be a little less damaged, if you will, which could be seen as slightly bullish. We'll see what the chart says. Speaking of which, let's jump over to the charts, as crude oil is getting absolutely obliterated right now. Good timing. You gotta love that. As far as the S&P is concerned, we've got the overall just monstrous rally to the upside. But again, we are pulling back off of that rally. And this is what a lot of traders have been waiting for, to be fair. But a lot of traders might be a bit nervous now. You know, that's always the case. Like, man, this thing never pulls back. It never pulls back. And then it finally pulls back, and you're like, ooh, man, this might pull back too far. It's this emotional game of cat and mouse that we've got going on here. And realistically, I think a lot of it hinges on the fact that we've got the POC, which anchored itself up at the top. Beforehand, if we go back just a little ways over here, the POC was built up right here, and they tried to get that slide to the downside, right? Really aggressive slide to the downside, ended up being almost an avalanche wedge, and then just went screaming the other direction. So let's kind of see, well, what's going on now. Let's move this a little further forward. We've got another new high, right? We'll go up to the new high. The POC got left behind. All right, well, not really much of a change there, but keep this level in mind. This level is important. Bum, 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 bum. Charge! Right there. Now, we'll go beyond that, though. We did come back to that previous anchor point where a lot of sellers tried going down. You remember we were talking about how they never allowed those sellers to get out at break even? Well, guess what happened this morning? Anyway, let's go a little further forward. We did make a couple new highs here, and that increases to a new POC. Once we give it a second here, and that gives us a new POC on the top. My concern is, wait a minute, this is starting to look like what happened last time. So if this does start breaking out aggressively high, I mean, this could be a higher low transition and we never come back. Very potential, right? I mean, I like my English this morning. Very potential, good trade, upside move. I mean, that's kind of the way that this is setting up, though. If the sellers lose their grip, especially beyond the POC, then it's just game over. There's a lot of stuff going on here. How's it going, Raphael? Welcome. Now, as we progress this a little further forward, and we see what's going on, once NinjaTrader catches up. Come on now. There we go. The POC has shifted just a little bit, 45.27, but you can see it's still a valid attempt underneath. The sellers are trying to get things going. From the top to the bottom. From an impulse perspective, we can see that's right there at 45.25. So that's the battle spot. They got to get through 25s, maybe get up to the 30s, get through there. Sorry, I'm freezing. I gotta move my phone. All right. We'll see what they want to do. Are we rolling over today? Let me double check the volume real quick. No, not even close. The volume... Sorry, I didn't mean that to sound like rude or anything. Sorry. Good morning, Ace, by the way. The micro NASDAQ is at 162,000 today on the September contract, whereas the December contract is trading 20,000. So not even close. We're probably going to be like next week, maybe Wednesday, when that happens. That would be my guess. Probably next week, Wednesday. Maybe Tuesday. Maybe they string it out to the rest of the week, but it's doubtable. Hey, you never know, though. But not today. No. Not today. Over on gold. Yeah, exactly. The notice is super deceptive. And that's why a lot of volume tends to roll over all of a sudden. Is because, well, like Thinkorswim as an example, will auto-roll people. Like, if they're not paying attention, like, oh, wait, crap, I placed a trade on what? Like, oh, no. And it'll, you know, it kind of forces the volume to roll over anyway. So that's why I follow the volume. I wait for that to happen first. Right? I don't want to be the one that gets messed up in that. Looking at the gold market, we did get that really, really beautiful bounce, and the overall momentum that we had off of that bounce did follow through with the secondary move. You'll notice that we were picking it up off of the lows. We've got that nice move to the upside. I didn't really want to hold through that, which it turned out to be a good thing because it did pull back pretty aggressively. It wouldn't have been break even, and now, of course, it's gone all the way up to doubling up before pulling back to right where it was before. This is kind of a lesson to be learned, right? We've got the overnight session, again, making all of the movement, and we're coming back right to where we were before anything actually happened. So a lot of traders are coming in like, crap. You know, like, well, you know, I guess I missed it all. I hope not. You know, they're hoping that it goes back to the upside. From a volume perspective, from the top to the bottom, we've got the, well, I don't know yet. We've got my data bugged. Hang on. We've got the POC, which is back at 1,800 even. Lovely. As far as 1,800, they tried to pierce above it, and now we failed underneath it. This could be higher lows. This very easily could be higher lows, especially with a bull bar that looks like that. Right? Definitely. They've got a lot of work to do getting through the POC, and I'm not a big fan of being early to the party on this kind of dive. Unless I'm, you know, BTFDing my way in, buying the dip or building in or something. Different story. But I don't, I mean, it's already been in, it's already been out. I'm not interested in buying way up here anymore. So what I would rather see is more proof, right? Show me, do they want to actually break above the highs? And if they do, I'll buy way up there. But in that context, it would be in a pullback. right? So it's more of a value play than anything else. Buying where it is now is short-term value, but is it worth the risk? Your risk at the minimum is going to be underneath here, and I just don't see this being worthwhile as a scalp. The POC's not even there. It just doesn't fit, right? Not to say that it's not a good trade or anything, but for me, it doesn't fit. The bulls have to show up more to the party, although they did bounce very nicely off of the lows. Let's see if they can follow it up. Crude oil just riding the smack train. Holy crap. Getting absolutely railed. Now, the first thing that I want to see here is where are they pulling back to? Because remember, they did leave behind a couple POCs. The last time they broke above that was the attempt down. They retested it. Now we're back again. My data's bugged again, so I've got to go a little further forward. There we go. So that leaves behind that 68.75 POC. Now, the reason this is important is because the bulls rotated up. They tried getting it going, and it looked like they were going to lose it. But they never broke down to a new low. And with that failure to break down to a new low and a rotation back up, that's going to renew a lot of bull interest. Like, yes, we got it, right? That's going to get them stacked up. They're going to be buying up because they know they can risk under here now, right? That's a valid risk point. So when it goes just above it and then gets absolutely obliterated to the downside, chances are this was a trap, obviously, and they're probably going to be looking for that larger run to the downside. Well, that's where we are right now. We're just kind of hovering, and, you know, this is potentially on the precipice of disaster. This could get really nasty very quickly on crude oil, even with the pending news saying bullish. This looks like where the bears are going to try to get a valid attempt. Keep in mind the long term, though. The news is anticipated to be bullish, although still kind of bad, but better than, you know what I mean. So with that mentality, this could be a value play. A lot of traders may be looking to utilize this morning dump to get it on the cheap, right? Buy it when it's low. Just saying. That might mean that a little trap underneath this low with a stop underneath these next lows, although it looks absolutely insane, has a very high potential reward versus risk. You're looking at this. I mean, it's not even 3 to 1, 5 to 1. Bruh. 7 to 1, 8 to 1. 8 to 1 back to settlement. So, I mean, I'm probably going to be wrong, right? I mean, let's be real about this. I'm probably going to be wrong, but that's okay. That's worth the risk. That's a valid point of interest for the traders to try to press it up. And I know that these trades typically have a success rate of about 29%. Given the reward that I'm looking for on the trade, I cannot, in any logical form of mind, accept a 29% likelihood of success. That's absolutely absurd. This is more likely, you know, like a 15% success rate, 17%. So we have to make sure that that math makes sense, right? 17 times, it's making 2,000. Now, 100 minus 17 is 83 times that it's losing. It's losing 250. Guess what? That math still works. I'm okay with that. Good enough. I know that placing this trade, I'm going to lose 83 times out of 100. But it's worth it. Nice zone of interest on crude. We'll see if it gets there. As far as the euro is concerned, pulling back a little bit. Off the bottom to the top from a... my data's bugged again. Come on, man. Ninja, you're killing me. All right, well, it doesn't matter in this case. That's good. As far as the POC, that's down at 17,570, and realistically, it doesn't feel like the market has met any objectives yet. It's still kind of churning lower, but this really big, strong bull bar and a trap on the lows and a reversal higher is exactly what bulls need to see to try to get this thing to churn up. I've got bug data. Fantastic. I can't even look at it from this side. Looking at it from the top down, although I can't see the impulse, we are above the POC as well. I mean, it's doing everything it needs to do for the bulls to attempt to take over. For me, this is one of those that, again, you have to understand the probability is low because the reward is so high. If you want to increase the probability, then you've got to wait for a bit more proof, which means that you're also increasing the risk. Right? The risk being that you would be risking down to here now instead. And that doesn't even quite fit a 3-to-1. So that's the trade-off. Bitcoin catching a nice rally to the upside. Ethereum also catching a nice rally to the upside. Just kind of jumping around. We have Shiba Inu, which I still think is looking absolutely incredible. I was talking about that in Twitter. We were talking about that in Discord. The Shiba coin, Shiba Inu, I think is really, from a strength perspective, holding on to an incredible amount of structural strength. Very interesting. Anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole. All right, there we go. Looking at the NASDAQ next. Looking on the daily especially, this is, I mean, this is a major pullback, right? We're finally getting that dip close to the L1. It still hasn't hit it. I mean, like, what? It's, unbelievable. We've got this daily perspective, which has a huge amount of bullish continuation to the upside. Obviously, buyers are buying into the dip. And you remember the shelf that we were talking about yesterday and how important that shelf was? Guess what the market closed above yesterday? So, I mean, if the bulls are going to hold it, this is the spot. I mean, I don't see them holding it anywhere else. I really wish they would have gotten the L1. That's a real bummer. And maybe they get a little bit of a trap underneath the lows, but that would wreck too many things for them to drive down today again. That would cause too many problems. Then we might see the L2. I don't know. We're on really shaky ground here on the way that this is forming. The other side of things would be looking at it from the opposition, saying, well, look at this resistance that they had built up here, but that broke. I mean, it immediately failed after it broke, but it still broke. They closed above it. The market hasn't been able to close below this yet. Buyers still intact, but I'm still a little on edge about those buyers. Oh well. Looking at the 15-minute chart and looking at where we are, one of the big reasons why I would support the bulls here is because we finally got the value dip. Woohoo! We finally got the value dip. In terms of the... All right, we didn't take it on the micro NASDAQ. It was on the... it was on the full size. Hang on. I've got to duplicate to a new window for everything. Please don't switch that to everything and then change it over to the NASDAQ. There we go. That mistake one too many times. No thanks. So as far as the continuation phasing goes, hang on one second. What the hell? Is going. Where did my 15-minute NASDAQ chart go? Well, whatever. We're bouncing out of the zone of interest on the lows with a continuation to the upside. That's why I posted the screenshots in Discord, so I didn't have to deal with things being dumb. We've got the bullish continuation to the upside. We hit the initial objectives all inside of there. Beautiful objective run. They had a quick little snapback, which would have taken a lot of stops out on that secondary pulse before continuing back to the upside and finishing off the rest of the objectives. Now, from there, we've had a retest, which happened, of course, when was that, like 3 in the morning? Yeah, of course it was. It was at 3:15 in the morning. So with that secondary bounce, they're kind of reconfirming it, you know? Like, a lot of bulls were already long, and there was already a lot of consolidation and confirmation inside of there. That's the reconfirmation. Like, this is all signs point to the moon right now. Looking really, really good for continuation to the upside from here. But if they lose their grip, that's a huge problem. Anyway, so looking at this morning with this continuation to the upside, we've got this, I mean, there's a lot of bullish intent going on, right? The bulls are obviously pushing, and we've got a significant amount of continuation that's going on. As far as the continuation is concerned, bulls are going to be looking for maybe this to end up as a channel. Fairly obvious in the sense of the lows. But when we park it up on the highs, we start running into some problems. If we narrow this in a little bit to kind of accommodate those highs, you know, and get this to fit, I mean, it still shows a bounce off of that level and even resistance, but it just doesn't really fit anymore. So we're kind of breaking down that structure overall. And maybe it's a wider channel with a midline. That could definitely be the case. But the other side of things would be, you know, this is forming in and of itself kind of an ascending wedge working its way higher, detaching from the previous structure. They kind of did the same thing over here, where they had that really strong pulse up, spike and channel style. But in this case, it's not a spike and channel. At least not yet. I mean, maybe it turns into one, but spike and wedge so far. All right, now that we've caught up, and I know for a fact that my Ninja is acting really stupid right now. Give me 1 second. I'm going to shut down and reload. Two seconds. Ugh. I don't like it when things are acting weird. That makes me nervous. Ah, yes, hello. Welcome. Welcome to the rollover warning. No, please do not roll over anything, or I will be incredibly upset. Let me connect again. Oop, sorry, I didn't mean to punch the mic there. Yeah, that's why I'm doing it now, because I know I've got about 6 minutes or so until the open, so I would rather use this time now to make sure that everything is working properly, rather than have something blow up in my face and then try to fix it in the heat of the moment. Oh, thanks. All right, everything is still good. It's got to recalculate everything. Trying to be smart. I have my moments, you know. smort. As far as the wedge is concerned, that moved a little bit when we reloaded, so let me pop that up there. Now, from a structure perspective, we've got the bottom working its way up. First pullback was an L3, second pullback was an L2, next pullback was an L2. We've got 2 consecutive L2s. Next was an L1. That's not exactly what traders were hoping for. So with that L1, a lot of traders want to see the L2, but that hasn't happened yet. Now we've got an L1, and now it's not even hitting anything. They made a higher close and I think a 1-tick new high. So, I mean, man, what a gross transition of what's going on here. Just nasty. What the heck? Where did my chart go? Hang on. Oh, there we go. Jeez. The red lion on the desktop is the Brave browser. I'm not... If you haven't heard of it, Brave browser is a... well, you can look more into it, but that's what the red lion is. It's really cool. You get paid to use your browser. It basically made like $10 this year just by using the internet. In crypto, of course, $10 in today's money. Whatever that happens to be tomorrow could be 5 cents as far as BAT. But the EWP is Elliott Wave Principal. And the one next to it, MD, is Mark Douglas. 2 very important keynotes. $928 right around the corner. The S&P has done a V bottom now at this point. This is kind of like what we were talking about yesterday, what could happen, right? And today is sort of the same situation. Is this going to be one of these types of days where this ends up being a wick and we get the big bull bar? Looking at how yesterday turned out, you remember we were talking about that on the NASDAQ. Well, that obviously didn't happen, but if we look at how the NASDAQ played out, where were we talking about that? Over here. There it was. When we had this initial pulse, we were talking about how this zone inside of here is going to be something that could potentially cause that type of day. And instead, we ended up having this gigantic move to the downside and closing kind of funky. And now we're back up here again, asking ourselves the same question. Do you use the dome at all? Nah. I haven't used... Honestly, I've never really ever used the dome. It's just not one of those things that I really look at. I don't trust enough the pending orders because they can change too quickly. And unfortunately for me, I'm not a machine. So I can't calculate those changes fast enough for me to really care about it. I would rather look at the executed orders within order flow because I know that that's something I can count on, right? Those are executed and they're not going to change on me. So I don't really use the dome. No. That could be something as well. Ninja's dome is awful. I don't really use, like I said, I don't use it. The only dome that I've ever used, oh my god, what was that thing? It looks like it was programmed with Windows 95. I'm drawing a blank as to what it's called now. It's been so long since I've used it. All it was a dome. You can link it with Sierra charts. God, what was that charting? I don't even want to call it a charting platform, an execution platform called. I don't remember. They had an incredibly good dome. It was super fast. 9:30 open hits. S&P with a very, very small gap to the downside, basically non-existent. We'll see how they want to progress as far as today. That is way too big. More continuation to the upside. From a cycle perspective, we've got the, well, I mean, we're kind of breaking away. It would really be nice to see this actually show something a bit more consistent. More continuation to the upside. And now the S&P is getting whacked a little bit. All right. NASDAQ, non-stop to the upside. Not a ton happening, really. Nice little dip down into the L1. Yeah, same as yesterday. Poke the head above settlement, whack-a-mole right back down again. Gross. All right, well, pulling back a little bit further. Doesn't really fit. Ugh. I mean, now we're starting to chop underneath. It's having a little bit of difficulty here. Let's look a bit closer and see what's going on. Bulls attempting to churn back up again. Kind of retesting the completion point of the wedge. Remember the earlier wedge right inside here? And if we bring this a little further forward. Not quite. 643s or so. From the bottom all the way up to the top, the POC is at 630, which was that attempt to the downside. But they couldn't even break a new swing low. I mean, I don't even really want to call it a valid attempt. Speak soon on the S&P. I mean, look at this thing. Golly gee willikers, Batman. I mean... Okay, cool. Sounds good. POC on the NASDAQ's at 638. Raging bucking Bronco over here. S&P. More bullish continuation. Oh, yeah, there you go, Ace. Grabbing the targets. Ripping, ripping, ripping. From the previous zone of support down here at the lows to the previous support, or previous area of resistance. Jeez, oh, Pete. Support resistance, one of those two. That's not really going to start hitting until, I mean, at least the 677s. They got a lot of room yet. New high being made, POC being left behind at 625 quarter. The 5-minute S&P POC, jeez, 509.75, way back there. Market just kind of grinding still. Sellers are obviously stuck and they're getting ran over just brutally right now. More continuation to the upside on the S&P. As far as the upside, I mean, we're starting to hit into this resistance zone up here. I'd like to see him break through it. Obviously, the pre-market rally higher is doing just fine. More continuation keeps on ripping. If they buy from the POC, they hit a 5-to-1 target. Yeah. I wish there was a more viable swing high that formed in the overnight, but there really isn't. So it kind of forces you to go overlapping markets, but that POC was at 595.50, and they just left it in the dust. It never even came back. And look at it from a confirmed swing standpoint, right? Confirmed swing. Well, here, let's do it this way. It's a good exercise for those of you who don't or are still unsure of how these confirmed swings work. Right, let's do a quick little exercise. You've got the confirmed swing. We'll just start with an obvious point low. And the obvious previous swing high was over here. They broke a new high up here. The lowest point that the market went up into a new high. So that is the new confirmed swing low. This is the new confirmed swing high right up here. The lowest point that it made, up, new confirmed swing low, breaks a new high. Newest high, lowest point, new confirmed low. Come on. Breaks out to a new high. New high, lowest point, breaks out to a new high. New high, lowest point, breaks out to a new high. Newest high, lowest point, breaks out to a new high. You can see what I'm getting at here. When you've got this overall momentum to the upside that hasn't even broken a previous swing, that's going to be the first major zone of interest. You got away with that short just before at 623. Nice. Quick little flippy dip before the rip, huh? I like it. Nice work, Ace. Good job. And 7. Good job. Secondary bull bar on the S&P, very strong to the upside. Upside continuation, possibly creating some bull gapping, although still unconfirmed. That small little exercise on confirmed swings is probably one of the most useful things. Thanks. Yeah, for sure. It's like with entries or with, you know, Elliott wave or anything that seems complex at first. Once you see it, you can't not see it. Like, it's always there now. Same thing. Looking at the overall structure on this move up, we started off with the L3, which should have rotated off an L1. It did, by the way. You can see that small little L1 bounce there. Then we pulled down into an L2, continued up into another L2, and so far have not had the next L2. We then have an L1 into a miss, and then another L1, so we've got 2 L1s back to back, and now we missed the L1 again. You're starting to feel, remember we were talking, I believe, yesterday, actually, on this feeling that the market's making you kind of chase it. Like, okay, you know, like now we're not even hitting the L1s. We were hitting L3s, you know, L2s. Now it's L1, couldn't even hit the L1. Finally got the L1, now we can't even hit the L1 again. It's making people feel like they're in a hurry, and that's almost always before a larger pullback. So instead of waiting for the next L1 that would follow the sequence of that third L1, I would rather wait to revert back to the older sequence and say, you know what, we've got the L2 and the L2. I'm going to wait for the next L2. The next L2 lines up with the POC. It fits a heck of a lot better. POC on the S&P has shifted up 4520 quarter. So far, the market has not been able to close above. A lot of volume here. Yeah, it just did it. Perfect timing, right? So the 4520 quarter area, good call. The POC shifting to the upside on the S&P. We haven't seen it yet on the NASDAQ, although there is a lot of volume up there. It would make sense as far as a valid attempt from the sellers, that deeper pullback, right? Shutting down the chasers, if you will. Buying too high. We've all been there before. Well, hopefully just in the markets. Or on April 20th. But we've got a little bit of back and forth going on up here. Jeez. There's a lot of volume building up here. Holy moly. Looking across the board here. Good old crude. Thanks, crude. I appreciate ya. That's a bummer. Anyway, it might still pull back. We still got a lot of the day left. A little bit frustrating, though. S&P also filling in some of the candle gapping. And here it sits. Just kind of herpy-derping around. Just a metric ton of volume coming in around this 662 area, though. Jeez. S&P trying to close out the third bar in the sequence. Looking at the morning so far on the NASDAQ, the POC is way back there. But if we migrate it a little further forward to encompass everything, we've got it at 662 quarter. The 5-minute POC, though, is back at 638. More or a continuation up. That's not enough of a pullback for me to really care about. I'm going to disregard that as a confirmed swing. Judgment call. Technically it is, but might be a nice little trapping swing. This seems like the sellers are just getting ran over right now. I mean, we've got upside candle gapping. That candle closed up above the POC, by the way. Just throwing that out there on the S&P. Upside candle gap objectives suggest that the market should reach out to around the 2950s for now. No, I'm not in a trade. Well, to be fair, we grabbed the bounce on the full size Nasdaq on this dip down here, but I exited the majority of my positions while it was rallying up. So I'm not in for the secondary portion. And the secondary portion reloaded at, of course, 3 in the morning. So it's not really a whole lot I could have done about the secondary follow through except buy super high, and I really didn't want to. So we've definitely played the bounce, but I'm not still in it, no. I wish I was. POC shifting to the upside, 15,662 quarter. On the S&P at 1875, a nice little zone of interest for potential scalpers. Also see if we can get a scalp out of it. So for the S&P, I'm looking for 1875 for a push back up to complete like the 2050s or so. It bounced off the entry, but no fill. No fill. No fill. So many no fills. All right. So upside objective at the moment, if that's all it hits, is 2050. If it does want to continue a little bit lower, though, then we can modify for a scalp. I mean, it already is a scalp, but... and out. Nice little bounce on the S&P. Scalper's objective back up into the POC. A little bit risque trying to get a target above the POC, and you could feel it struggled there for a second, but it did end up working its way through. I did have a backup plan in terms of building into the scalp to try to get an average lower, so I had a contingency plan, but popped anyway. Nice little pop. Alright, and now here we sit again. POC has shifted to the upside. Realistically, this is a pretty valid attempt from the sellers. And remember, we were just talking about this trap underneath this previous little minor low. We're kind of doing that right now. Although the L2 is 1.5 miles away. Just so that I don't lose sight of it, let's throw up just an L2. Right there. Ooh, baby, 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 baby. Look at that. Ooh, man, that POC right on the bottom of the L2? What? Okay. Well, I mean, I did want to initially try to buy the top of it, but we might have to structure this a little bit differently and try to build down into the base. Realistically, the L2 is still the anticipated zone of interest, but wow. That's purty. I don't know, we'll see if it gets there, but so far so good. Where's crude at? Nowhere near my entry anymore. Oh, why crude? Why? If it comes back now, we have to ask ourselves, if it were to come back right now, am I still okay with the setup? And I would have to say, yeah. I mean, if this collapses all the way back down, it is a little bit more of a bearish intent, but realistically, that would just be a second leg down. It makes it even more favorable. The completion point's a little bit, you know, closer to my stop than I'd like it to be, but it's not through my stop, so, you know, it's still okay. And I already know the probability sucks on the trade, but again, like we talked about before, the math, it's worth it. This is a trade that I will take every single time without hesitation. Speaking of, the S&P is breaking above 45.20 quarter on the 15-minute perspective. This is where swing longs start stacking up, right? Now we've got proof on a big picture. Not only are we breaking above perpetually with 3 straight-up bull bars to the upside to start the day off on the S&P, we're also closing above some major POCs and trying to shift the gear. That's a big deal. That's a big, big deal. I was only able to grab the 1 on the S&P, but the next objective would be up near these highs. I mean, honestly, ahead of the highs would even make sense. But as this thing is projecting higher, we've got upside objectives for the candle gap. Oh, hang on now. Hang on now. The candle gap closed up a little bit, so we got to narrow it in. 1 tick is still 1 tick. Candle gap objective is 28.50. See if I can get up there. Yeah, so far we are getting a little bit later in the day, and we're on Thursday already. Let's see, how's the week been going? Dollars and cents excluded. I don't care about those. I mean, I do, but I don't. And there we go. Okay, so far this week, from the 6th to the 9th, we've got 26 total trades, 65.38% accurate. So the accuracy's not too bad. But the part that is really helping that out is that 1.3 average, really bumping that quite a bit further up. So average winning trade 35, average losing trade 27 in the long run. Pretty straightforward. Not too bad. It looks like they're trying to get another POC shift here on the NASDAQ. Jeez. And here it sits, not really doing much of anything. No POC shift quite yet, but, you know, again, from where they are, I'm just looking at the impulse. If we go a little bit further forward, they've already shifted it at 660, and that's, again, that little trap low underneath that base in the 57s. I mean, it worked out. This thing's just a non-stop freight train to the upside. I mean, what's the biggest pullback? Wave 1, wave 2, I guess? Like, it's just, it hasn't made a new swing low. Like, come on, man. No new low, no new low. Nope, 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 nope. And, well, this isn't a confirmed low yet, but nope. got about 5 minutes until we roll into 10 o'clock. Feel free to get those questions in. We'll get those covered for you. And then along with that, we've got crude oil just getting further and further away. Fantastic. Okay. There's not really much else going on. Market continues to close above the POCs on the S&P, although the NASDAQ, not so lucky. Well, now they're shifting it a little bit. The nasty bear bar at the top there, jeez. The S&P, it's forcing traders up at 20 quarter. That's disgusting. Ugh, I don't like that one. The last confirmed swing low that we left behind is that giant pink arrow. We haven't broken underneath that yet, but that is going to be a big zone of interest for the bulls to start stacking up. We also have the pending L2, which is hovering just underneath price. Beforehand, the POC was smack on top of the L2 and then in the middle of it. Now it's above it. Also beginning to demonstrate a little bit of a sign of a descending wedge. Might require a bit more time to reverse out of here now because of that. Okay. Here it sits, doing not much. Rejecting off the POC, trying to demonstrate a bit of resistance here. A deeper pullback on the S&P would make more sense now if they start pushing underneath, but I mean, really, if we look at where this is, the cycle up, I mean, it really hasn't even stopped. It just keeps going. We started off with this initial little bitty cycle here, which grew up into a not so little bitty cycle. That broke, it had a couple legs up, but that didn't stop it. It had another wider potential cycle building off of that, and now we've got this one that's still going. And if we put this up on the highs, it fits. The one concern, and a very obvious thing that's happening right now, is the fact that they're missing the top. So the fact that they're missing the top would suggest that they're running out of steam a little bit. They're going to need a deeper pullback. But look how open this window is. You know, it's either they hold support and bounce, or it gets ran over. I wonder if I could leave it like this. Why? Oh, this is auto scale. That drives me freaking crazy. Turn that off. There we go. Nah, I like the 5 minute. Too big of a change. That's going to get me too actively into the S&P, and I'm not going to pay attention to the NASDAQ, and then it causes too many problems. Going into 10 o'clock. We've got the rejection off of the 660, still maintaining this descending wedge mentality. Yeah, I mean, there's a metric ton of volume shifting up here. And from the bigger perspective, you know, again, on the S&P, that makes sense. we're right on top of that 20-quarter POC, you know? So the fact that it's hovering there, we've got another fight up to 25. If they can get through that, man, this thing's going to be... this thing can go nuts. The NASDAQ's got a little bit more difficulty. They even fell short of where I thought they were going to go to. Man, well, again, I guess that's why you front run, huh? Jeez. ABCD corrective phase did get that 1-to-1 move down, which means that we could be looking for the impulse leg up, and that makes a lot of sense where we are right now. 1, 2, 3. Keep this bad boy going to a new high. The only thing that stands out in my mind is the fact that we didn't come back to the previous the wave 4. That could cause a deeper pullback if it can't go through the highs. And maybe that just means that we're still in consolidation. The value is going to be deeper either way. All right, not seeing any questions coming in on that side, so let's switch over to the extended session and the VIP session. For those of you who are ducking out, I hope you had a fantastic morning, and you know, so far, not too bad. Not very action-packed. I only had the one thing on the S&P, but hey, you know, not too bad. And some of the overnight stuff, if you're holding from yesterday or the things we were talking about in the Discord chat, definitely worked out beautifully. But not so much this morning. I kind of had to sit and watch the whole thing pass me by. It didn't give me a valid setup. Maybe they'll give me something to play with here in a little bit, though. The S&P at least came through. Better than nothing. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the day. Let's switch over, and we'll talk to the rest of you all tomorrow, right? Have a good one. We'll talk to you all then. Thanks.